So good evening, doctors. I'm Dr. Prachi from Shield Healthcare, and very pleased to welcome you all. And thank you very much for joining today's webinar. So today's webinar is under the aegis of AGOG and Shield Healthcare. We are having an episode of task series, and I am very pleased in order to introduce Dr. Niranjan Chavan, who is the convener of task series. Sir is Unit Chief, LTMMC and AHH and Hospital, Joint Treasurer of Foxy till 2024 and Vice President MOGX 2022. Sir has numerous publications in international and national journals and 50 citations also. And Sir has given multiple talks on various platforms. So with this, may I invite Sir and request Sir to introduce our chief guest and guest of honors.
Thank you so much, Dr. Prachi. And I welcome all the delegates today to the Trending Ask, that is the task series number 3. And I request you to please show the next slide. On behalf of Academy of Global Obstetrics and Gynecology, today we have with us none other than I can say the mentor of mentors, and he is very well and popularly known as Dr. CN. And we have with us today as our chief guest Dr. CN Purandare sir. He is practicing in Mumbai. We all know he has been also the president of the international body of obstetrics and gynecologists, that is FIGO, and the president of Foxy, president of MOGS, dean and editor emeritus of ICOG and Jogi. He has also FRCS and FRCPI from the Royal College of London and Ireland. And sir, what can I say, sir? You have taken this time out to be present today for all of us for this Trending Ask series. We all are grateful to you. Today we have trending topics. The first one is by Dr. Jaydeep. He's going to speak on ovulation induction, the trending management which is to be done by all of us and the IVF consultants, to be specifically those who are practicing infertility, and Madam Madhuri Patel. She's going to join us on and discuss us the topic of GD Goals 2020. Sir, we would request you to please guide and encourage and enlighten on today's program.
Thank you, Niranjan, and I'm happy to be here. And I believe 2,000 again, which is a good number.
Sir, we request you to please increase the volume.
I have increased the volume. I can't increase it any further. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes sir. Yes, sir.
The overall webinars have really transformed the education platform to a different level altogether. And it is nice.
Sir, the loud is not clear. I think, can we shift on to the mobile? That was much better, sir, the volume.
Again?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me better now? Can you
yes,
hear
sir.
me
Yes,
better?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, yes, yes.
I think I need to hold the computer a little closer to. Can you hear better now?
Yes, sir. Now we can hear. Sorry to trouble you, sir.
Okay. The webinars have really transformed the whole thing, and the education level has changed altogether with the webinar. With people being able to listen to everything, normally they would not get a chance to travel all the way to various meetings to hear people talk. And today's talks are very relevant, as I can see. One is on a day-to-day practice for people who are basic infertility management, and the second on the SDGs, because every obstetrician gynecologist must know what the SDG levels are and what effort is needed to reach the SDGs to reduce the maternal mortality, perinatal mortality, and so on. So it's good you have chosen a very good topics there. And Egot is doing a good job of educating the obstetricians and gynecologists. And I wish you all the very best and good luck for your future webinars as well.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for all your pearls of wisdom. I recollect, sir, you were present when the academy was launched and in AICOG 2019, where all the global leaders had come down, and we were honored to have you with us as a patron and a guide and a mentor for this academy. And I'm really thankful to you, sir, in spite of your being in Ireland today. The temperature is quite hot there. There is a heat wave in Europe, but you have made and been there with us. Thank you so much. I would request you to please be there for some time, and please be a part of this program. Thank you so much, sir. Now I take the opportunity to call upon our next, that is the guest of honors. They are the past vice presidents, and we have with us Dr. Anita Singh. She is an ex-professor in the Department of Obstetric Gynac, that is PMCH Patna. She has her own hospital, a very renowned lady, a very well practitioner in Patna. I remember students coming from Patna and taking her name, madam. And you were also a wonderful vice president, which you just finished your tenure along with Alpesh Gandhi in 2020. And you were the organizing secretary. What a wonderful AICOG you had organized in Patna in 2015. Thank you, madam, for being there. I request you to please say a few words for this today's Trending Ask series topics. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, Dr. Niranjan. You have always been such a great favorite to me, and you have made me guest of honor at the platform where Dr. C.N. Purandre himself is chief guest. I really feel honored, sir. And regarding today's program, you are doing a very good job. That is, you are conducting series of programs under Academia of Global Obstetrics and Gynecology. And this is your third one. So I wish that this program goes on like it had been in the previous two ones. And today, I think the topic, as sir said, are very important. Ovulation, induction. Any gynecologist, I think all the gynecologists practice infertility, not only the infertility specialists. And all the day we are juggling with the induction of ovulation, what to give, how to get success, how to change it. I think any talk, and especially that by Dr. Jaydeep Tank, is going to be a great one in helping us to decide how, what, how, and when to go about ovulation induction. So that's a very important topic we have chosen. And the second one by Dr. Madhuri Patel, equally important, if not more, and that is SDG Goal 2020. That is going to be a landmark in the health indices all over the world, as well as we are trying to reach that even before 2030 in many of the aspects of the SDG 2030. So I welcome the two learned speakers for such two important topics, and my fellow Dr. Ragini is there. So I think we are going to have a great time for the next 1.5 hours. And thank you all once again for having invited me at this platform. Thanks.
Thank you so much, madam, for that wonderful insight which you have given. I would like to add here, when sir was the FIGO president from 2012 to 15, and later on as a past immediate president of FIGO, he has done a lot of work on these goals, and I recollect to attend his lectures. A lot of work was done during his tenure. Sir, we would like you to say a few words on that. Just few words.
From MDG to SDG, there was transformation. And what was supposed to be achieved in Millennium Development Goals, we were never ever closer to what was supposed to be achieved. And the SDGs were brought into place. They are also quite ambitious goals. It is not something which can be easily achieved, but they have been now divided into 17 different categories so that it's understood better. You are able to give more attention to those 3, 5, and so on, as far as they are concerned. And every country must make that effort, and the onus is on the doctors in that country to do that. And FIGO contributed a lot of in the deliberation that happened in the United Nations, and the meeting that took place where FIGO's suggestions were put in by us. And certainly it's our duty now to make sure that we get the success out of the SDGs.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, sir. Because of your guidance, Jaydeep Tank was a Secretary General now, and now Madam has come, and I'm sure we will all be working towards, Foxy will be working towards achieving these goals. We request you to continue your mentorship for us. Thank you so much, sir, with those pearls of wisdom. Now I call upon Dr. Ragini Agarwal, Madam. She is the Vice President of Foxy 2020. She has her own practice in Gurgaon and has a lot of work in adolescence girl. I would like to tell her she has done a lot of research, a lot of publications, a lot of presentations, and a new era. She has enlightened the northern Indian belt with cosmetic, aesthetic, regenerative gynecology, which has taken absolute sharp rise. And I can see her doing a lot of work. She has a wonderful setup. We were very privileged to be there. Madam, thank you for being with us today. We request you to please touch upon these topics and guide us.
Thank you, Niranjan. Thank you so much for inviting me. And today is a wonderful day in my life with Sir. CN, if you are sharing a dais with CN sir, there's no honor is more than that. Thank you so much for this invitation. And I know I have attended your many webinars. They're always excellent, and there's something out of box there. And here what I can see, Dr. Anita Madam, we all know that she has done wonderful work as far as the cervical cancer is concerned in last year under the leadership of Dr. Alpesh Gandhi, and past and present Secretary General of the Foxy. Dr. Jaydeep, it is always a pleasure to listen to him. And the thing is that when he speaks, you really know that somebody is speaking from the experience, and the content is always solid. So I know the delegates who has joined, they are going to be beneficial. It is too beneficial for them. And Madhuri, my close friend, she is the first ever female Secretary General of the Foxy. She is going to touch one subject. I think every doctor, we are not only a practitioner, we have to think about the health indices also, for the health of the public also. Understanding the SDG goal is very, very necessary. And with this, your global academia, and the goal is basically is a mentor is our own Dr. C.N. Purandre. We will really work for it. Thank you so much, Niranjan, again, for giving me this opportunity. And over to you to take the academic feast forward. Thank you so much. And sir, मैं फिर से आपको प्रणाम करती हूँ.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank
you, Madam, and Dr. C.N. Purandre, sir, Dr. Anita Singh. Without much ado, I would like to start the presentation. I would request Dr. Jaydeep Tank to please come forward. But before that, I would like to introduce Dr. Jaydeep. Jaydeep and we have been very close to each other for last probably 2.5 decades. We know him as an efficient Secretary General of Foxy, and also he was the president of Mumbai Obstetric Gynec Society. Well, he is also at the helm of affairs at AOFOG, that is the 28 countries are there, Asia, Oceania, and also he is the chair of the Safe Abortion Committee of FIGO. I can go on and on. Well, Jaydeep, your field of interest, I'm aware, it is infertility and IVF and abortion, and today you're going to speak on a very important topic where IVF consultants and infertility practitioners are going to get a lot of wisdom from you. So thank you for accepting our invitation. And I request you to please go ahead with your lecture. The mic is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Niranjan. I'll just share my screen quickly and then I will proceed with the talk. So first of all, thank you very much, Niranjan, for inviting me. I remember when you had first mooted the idea of the AGOG and we had some discussions on it. I think this was when you were the secretary of MOGS, if I remember right. Yes. And I was the president. And I'm happy to see that it has taken on such a great shape. But that was to be expected when you are in charge. So I'm not entirely surprised, I must confess. Niranjan said we have been close for a long time, but I really got to see a new side of Niranjan when he was the secretary to my presidency in MOGS, and I remain extremely grateful and deeply appreciative of all the work that he did as the secretary to enable my year as president of the MOGS to go forward smoothly. So thank you, Niranjan, not only for inviting me, but also for that entire year where you really supported it and helped to get, carry the year forward. It is, of course, such an honor and pleasure to be sharing a dais with CN Sir. CN Sir is someone I have literally known since childhood. I don't even remember when I first saw CN Sir. I think CN Sir has always been in my life since forever, actually. And I got exposed to Sir's way of working when I was the chair of the MTP committee in Foxy, and Sir was the Secretary General at that time for 5 years. And I can tell you that as the chair of a committee, there would not have been any better Secretary General to have to learn from and to understand the various processes. I think what has not been talked enough about Sir is, one, his eye for picking talent. He has a real eye for picking talent, and Sir has this unique ability to know who will fit into what role in an organization, and also his ability to understand the pulse of an organization. I think that has really not been talked about enough, and I think that really makes him stand apart. Thank you very much, sir, for all that you have done, not only for me, but for Foxy and Women's Health and FIGO in general. I must also very much thank Dr. Anita Singh and Dr. Ragini Agarwal. We worked through the pandemic together, and they were the most kind, dynamic, enthusiastic vice presidents a Secretary General could ask for. I was really very, very lucky as Secretary General, and it was my good fortune to get to know them over this last 1.5 years of the pandemic, when their activities really stood out in all the activities for women's health. Of course, and I've said this before, that as administrative officers in Foxy, we develop a very close bond, because we don't work for 1 or 2 years with each other. We work for close to 9 years with each other. And I can say the same for Dr. Madhuri Patel, someone I have grown to admire over the last so many years of working together. And I was so pleased that when I finished my tenure as Secretary General, I handed over to the first Lady Secretary General of Foxy. And I'm sure that Dr. Patel will take the organization to even bigger and better and greater heights. Let me paraphrase, let me start my presentation on recent trends with ovulation induction by appealing to all of you to please support me as I stand for the president of Foxy for this current election year, and I will come back to this theme at the end of the talk. But before I start talking about the recent trends in ovulation induction, let me first make this very important distinction. And I think this is a distinction which we perhaps don't talk enough about, and that is the distinction between ovulation induction and ovarian stimulation. When you're talking about ovulation induction, you want to mimic a physiological cycle. And that is where the phrase, one oocyte, one embryo, and one healthy full-term baby gets full expression. When you're talking about ovarian stimulation, on the other hand, you are talking about applying supraphysiological doses of either hormones or oral ovulation induction to produce a multifollicular response. And I think this is the very important nuance that one has to understand between what is ovulation induction and what is ovarian stimulation, because it completely changes the way that you practice either of these two entities. If you ask me, for everything up to IVF, we should be looking at ovulation induction. We should not be using the word ovarian stimulation at all. So oral ovulation induction for cycles with planned relations and gonadotropins for cycles with intrauterine insemination should normally in these circumstances be called ovulation induction cycles and not ovarian stimulation cycles. You do ovarian stimulation when you want a supraphysiological response with a supraphysiological addition of either gonadotropins or oral ovulation induction agents, and you normally do that only for IVF. So let me begin by talking a little bit about oral ovulation induction, and let me start with the absolute classic drug, which is clomiphene citrate. Clomiphene citrate has been around for so long that sometimes I feel we tend to take it a little for granted. Just think back and recollect, when did you last read some new literature on clomiphene citrate? We always use clomiphene citrate almost on a daily basis, but when was the last time we took time off to look at the physiology of clomiphene citrate and the implications of the pharmacokinetics of clomiphene citrate on oral ovulation induction? So let me very briefly touch upon this. Clomiphene citrate is actually a competitive estrogen antagonist. It will surprise you to know that at some level it is also an agonist. However, its predominant action is one of suppressing estrogen receptors right through the HPO axis and also the endometrium. Importantly, 85% of an administered dose of clomiphene is eliminated after 6 days. Traces of the drug remain in circulation for much longer, but at the end of 6 days, you can justifiably say that whatever clomiphene is left behind is of no biological consequence. And therefore, although there has been talk about using only one isomer of clomiphene rather than using both, clinically, there is absolutely no evidence to show that it makes any difference. Clomiphene, by depleting the estrogen receptors, essentially fools the hypothalamus into making either an increase in GnRH pulse frequency or increasing the amplitude of the pulse frequency. By doing so, it increases production of FSH, and by increasing the production of FSH, it causes an increased response from the ovary. One of the most important things that I can tell you in this slide is the fact that the LH surge normally occurs only at least 5 days after the last dose of clomiphene is taken. Why is that an important fact that I'm sharing with you? It's important because there is no point in a normal cycle to call the patient for her first sonography till 5 days of the last dose of clomiphene are over. So for example, if you're giving clomiphene from day 2 to day 6 of cycle, the earliest that you should call the patient for a sonography is day 11. There is no point in calling the patient on day 9 or day 10 because the LH surge will simply not have taken place by then. And if it's not taken place by then the extra sonographies which you call the patient for are actually a waste of the patient's resources and your time. A little bit more about clomiphene citrate. And let me very strongly urge you to read this document. This is one of the most wonderful overviews of clomiphene citrate that I have read ever. And this is the ASRM committee opinion on the use of clomiphene citrate in infertile women. It's available freely over the internet. You can do a Google search, ASRM clomiphene citrate committee opinion, and you will be able to download this document. It's a very comprehensive document, at the same time very easy to understand and read. So when it comes to clomiphene citrate, let's look at the basic questions. How much clomiphene citrate should you be using? The correct answer to that would be as little as can provoke ovulation. However, practically, it could sometimes take more than 1 or 2 cycles to arrive at this correct dose. To overcome this, I normally prefer to start with 100 milligrams of clomiphene irrespective of the patient's status. I know that if she hyper-responds, I can always cancel the cycle and use a lower dose next time. But remember that the chances that the patient will go into hyperstimulation because of clomiphene are extraordinarily rare. In these instances, when more than 3 eggs are produced, what you're worried about is not hyperstimulation, but multiple pregnancy. So practically speaking, we always start with somewhere around 100 milligrams of clomiphene citrate, and we start it on day 2 and end it on day 6. The old practice of starting clomiphene or even letrozole on around day 5 or 6 of the cycle should be completely abandoned. And it should be abandoned because we know that the follicular phase is divided into 2 parts. You have the early part, which is the phase of recruitment, and then you have the later part, which is the phase of growth. So till around day 6, you can recruit, and beyond day 6, whatever you do, you're only going to make whatever is already recruited grow further. So if you're starting clomiphene citrate late, in a sense, what you're doing is missing the opportunity to recruit follicles. And by doing so, you are only making whatever is naturally recruited grow. And therefore, that limits the efficacy of clomiphene citrate. A big question is whether you should use luteal support for all cycles. And I would like you to examine the physiology of the trigger, that is the HCG that is normally used for provoking ovulation. The HCG molecule has 2 components. There is an alpha subunit and a beta subunit. It is the alpha subunit of HCG, which is biochemically similar to LH, which fools the oocyte into thinking that yes, LH surge has taken place. And because the oocyte is fooled into thinking that the LH surge has taken place, the metabolism within the oocyte shifts from the early estrogenic metabolism of granulosa cells and estrogen to the luteal metabolism of theca cell and progesterone. Now, when you give a trigger in the form of HCG, what you're essentially doing is giving a fixed dose of LH, because as I said, it's that alpha subunit of HCG which mimics your LH. Because this dose is fixed and is not titrated, as per the levels of E2 that were there in the follicular phase, the shift of metabolism within the oocyte, which should occur from granulosa and estrogen to theca and progesterone, is oftentimes incomplete. And because it is oftentimes incomplete, in a sense, what happens is that by giving the trigger, you're producing what I like to call an idiopathic luteal phase defect. Because of this issue, we prefer to give luteal support for all cycles, where we use HCG or even the GnRH agonist as a trigger. I will talk a little bit more about the value of doing an IUI in clomiphene cycles, but for now, let me say that the ASRM document recommends a maximum of 9 cycles in a woman's lifetime of clomiphene citrate. We normally never do clomiphene cycles more than 3 or 4. If we don't get a pregnancy in 3 or 4 cycles, we move on to the next oral ovulation induction, which we are going to talk about later. At the end, about clomiphene citrate, it's very important to distinguish between clomiphene resistance and clomiphene failure. The importance is that if a patient is clomiphene resistant, it means that you have used up to the maximum dose of clomiphene for the maximum allowed period of time, and she has not ovulated. If it is a clomiphene failure, it means she has ovulated but not got pregnant. And there is a very big difference between the two, because the further approach after this cycle is considerably different for both. Be as it may, the limitation of clomiphene really is that although clomiphene produces ovulation rates in excess of 80%, the cumulative pregnancy rates at the end of 4 cycles remains between 35 and 40%. That means there is a discrepancy between ovulation rates and pregnancy rates. And previously, the only option that was available to us for ovulation induction after clomiphene was gonadotropins. However, a few years back, this paper from Mitwali et al. Was published, and it talked about the use of an aromatase inhibitor, letrozole, for the induction of ovulation in patients with an inadequate response to clomiphene citrate. Letrozole has a unique mechanism of action because it's an aromatase inhibitor, and it inhibits the conversion of androgen to estrogen within the ovary. And because it does it within the ovary without affecting the estrogen receptors, and letrozole has a very short half-life, it tends to produce a more monofollicular response rather than a multifollicular response. This is all the more important as aromatase inhibitors actually have a much shorter half-life than clomiphene citrate. The importance of this is that aromatase inhibitors, because of their very short half-life, are very unlikely to be around in the woman's bloodstream when the embryo gets formed, and therefore the scare of congenital anomalies with letrozole could easily be explained or discarded simply because of this physiological fact of letrozole. And this was evident in literature. I remember that big hullabaloo which happened when letrozole was accused of producing congenital anomalies, but now we have more than enough data to show that the use of letrozole does not increase congenital anomalies. The recent trends in ovulation induction, if you look at all the guidelines, they in fact stratify when you should use clomiphene or letrozole as the first line of treatment. Mind you, it is not that they are not interchangeable. However, the current trend seems to suggest that when you're expecting a higher response because of PCO or because of a multifollicular kind of ovary, you should use letrozole. The importance is that if a patient is clomiphene resistant, it means that you have used up to the maximum dose of clomiphene for the maximum allowed period of time, and she has not ovulated. If it is a clomiphene failure, it means she has ovulated but not got pregnant. And there is a very big difference between the two, because the further approach after this cycle is considerably different for both. Be as it may, the limitation of clomiphene really is that although clomiphene produces ovulation rates in excess of 80%, there is a recording going pregnancy rates at the end of 4 cycles remains between 40%. That means there is a discrepancy.
Sir, I'm there. Yes.
And what is the only
yeah.
that was
I'm checking, sir.
for ovulation induction after clomiphene was gonadotropins. I thought I was not speaking that fast. Okay, should I proceed, Dr. Prachi?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, thank you. As I said, there is now a stratification of indications for the use of clomiphene and letrozole. It's not that you cannot use one or the other, but as the first line of treatment, if you're expecting a multifollicular response, you should tend to use letrozole. And if you're expecting a low response or a normal response, then use clomiphene citrate as the first line. Again, let me reiterate, first line. So if, for example, you have a patient with PCOS, you have used letrozole for 3 cycles and she's not conceived, by all means use clomiphene citrate. However, the first line can certainly be letrozole. So what is the current dose recommendation for letrozole? It is according to our drug control. 2.5 milligram once daily for 5 days, day 3 or day 7 for 3 consecutive cycles. Remember, we are in India and these are the Indian recommendations, which says that more than 3 courses of therapy or a dosage or duration of therapy beyond 2.5 milligram for 5 days should not be undertaken. This is despite the fact there are good guidelines to show that you can use higher doses of letrozole, you can use it for a longer time, but as of now, the Indian indications are 2.5 milligram, day 3 to day 7, with not more than 3 courses of therapy. The question of whether you can do an IUI with oral ovulation induction or not, I think is quite adequately answered in this slide. In effect, what these data seem to tell you is that if you're going to do an IUI, do it with gonadotropins. IUI with oral ovulation induction should probably only be done when either there is a problem with the sperm getting deposited in the vagina, for example, erectile dysfunction or hypospadias, or there is a problem with cervical rheology, for example, some surgery on the cervix in the past, like a cervical biopsy or a conization, etc. According to me, using IUI with oral ovulation induction does not improve pregnancy rates. Let me be very clear about that. So if you're going to do an IUI, please always use gonadotropins. Counterintuitively, because the success rate of a combination of gonadotropins and IUI is so good, it is actually more cost effective to use gonadotropins with IUI rather than clomiphene citrate with IUI. Which brings me to non-IVF gonadotropin cycles. As I said, these are all ovulation induction cycles. The most important thing in these cycles is to arrive at a starting dose. And I will talk in the next slide about how we arrive at a starting dose. But for someone who has not been practicing the use of gonadotropins for a long time, let me point out that the most important difference between your oral ovulation induction and gonadotropin cycle is that IUI or ovulation will come much sooner in a pure gonadotropin cycle. It normally comes at around 10 days of stimulation rather than the usual 14 days in any other kind of cycle. So this is a matrix that we have developed on our own. I actually developed it in 2000 and it has served a very good purpose in all these years, where we take into account age, that's the upper row, and we take into account AMH and antral follicle count by saying non-PCO or PCO. So if she's less than 35 and non-PCO, start with 150. If she's non-PCO and even if she's more than 35, start with 150. If she's less than 35 and PCO, start with 75. But if she's more than 35 years of age, to obviate the effect of age on ovarian reserve and fertility, start with 150 regardless. We normally start giving gonadotropins on day 2 of the cycle. We give it for 5 days, and at the end of 5 days, we call the patient for an ultrasound. If she has more than 10 mm follicles and they are around 2 or 3, we keep the same dose. If they are 4 to 6, same or taper. And if they are more than 6, we taper. And this is an old slide, so it's not look for OHSS, but consider cancelling because of the problem of multiple pregnancy. If all the follicles are less than 10 mm, you need to increase the dose. And if she's a PCO patient, increase the dose by half of what you started. That means if you started with 150, increase the dose by 75. If she's a normo-responder or poor responder, simply double the dose. It's quite important to give gonadotropins right up to the time the follicle is 18 and the first follicle is 18. Don't wait till the last one is 18 because then you'll have too many follicles. I don't recommend using oral ovulation induction agents with gonadotropin. However, if you really want to use them, then please use letrozole, don't use clomiphene. But you can see according to this protocol that it makes a difference only of 3 injections, and therefore the cost effectiveness is really not that great. Whether to use antagonists or not in an IUI cycle routinely is still a matter of debate. What is very clear is that the addition of antagonists does not do any harm. In fact, there is this quite recent study from France which says that if you're looking at pregnancy rates, one of the most important factors which improves pregnancy rates is the use of antagonists even in IUI cycles. We normally use the HCG trigger, and we usually tend to use around 10,000 units or one pre-filled unit or one pre-filled syringe of recombinant recombinant HCG, and we always try to document ovulation on the basis of ultrasound. Personally, I don't think anything like a luteinized unruptured follicle syndrome exists when you have given HCG. Just think about it. If you've given the HCG trigger, unless the HCG injection that you've used is bad, why in the world would she not rupture? And therefore, we never repeat the dose, and we generally tend to withhold the trigger if we find that there are more than 4 follicles. We adopt a very simple approach for the monitoring of ovulation induction. We typically call the patients just twice, and we are normally able to achieve very good pregnancy rates with that. We generally tend not to use supplements to clomiphene citrate, including metformin. You know, there was a time when we were handing out metformin like candy, and we have found that, and literature, there is good evidence to show that unless there is a metabolic syndrome, there is no advantage to adding metformin or any other kind of supplement. So let me at the end say that at the end of the day, science never really offers a last word, and scientists who believe in absolute certainty must be viewed with a degree of suspicion, because becoming unmad with your own truth defines us as believers rather than scientists participating in the exploration of the constantly new. I hope that I have given you the gist of my understanding of ovulation induction and its recent trends. And thank you, Niranjan, very much again for inviting me for this wonderful webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jaydeep. The way you have explained it so nicely, I think even a professor of a medical college would not be able to give the lecture the way you have done. Seriously, and I'm really impressed the way you have started. You have explained about clomiphene citrate, the use of letrozole, and the drugs which are to be given. When are you supposed to do the triggering, rather than not doing it on 9th, but doing it on 11th day, so that you get an LH surge, and the drugs which are to be combined along with gonadotropins. So this is what is the forte available, which you have given, and I'm sure all the member delegates are going to go with a lot of wisdom which you have imparted today to all of us.
Niranjan, if you don't mind, I actually forgot to show one slide. That's my election slide. Can I show that, please?
Yes.
Right. So I hope you can see this slide. As I told you at the beginning, I am standing for presidency of FOSI for this election here. And I've developed this website. It's called isupportjaydeeptang.com. And all my lectures are available in the video blog session here. I would request you to visit isupportjaydeeptang.com, register your support, and join my Telegram channel to get the latest updates on all the lectures that I give. For example, even today's lecture actually has been put up on that Telegram group. So, and I do speak quite a lot. So we constantly keep on updating with the previous lectures and my forthcoming ones. Thank you very much, Niranjan, for allowing me that.
Thank you, Jaydeep. Such a wonderful presentation. Now,
That was, can I comment?
Madam, you can ask question also, please. And
Yes,
Dr.
yes,
Ragini.
that was a wonderful presentation actually. And right from beginning with the oral ones, you took us to the more complicated ones sort of protocols. And I think the points that you have elaborated are really very important. Most of us do not go so deep into each and every scientific point of elaboration of those things. And we keep wondering why not getting the result and this and that. So that was very good. You have taken us through such a deep insight into the induction of ovulation that was really something beyond that we had thought.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam, for that wonderful comments. Dr. Ragini, are you there? You can just give your comment.
Yeah. So I can only say Jaydeep do always a justice with everything.
And specifically, I have never heard a ovulation induction making so simple that everybody can do. So, and especially the way he has said, no, specifically, I will tell the slide about the SCG very clearly, when the trigger, how much the trigger, and it's so clear to everyone how you have to go about it. So I think everybody was listening in a mesmerized way. Hats off to you, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jaydeep, for joining us today. And we will get back to you. Presently, there are no questions because the way you have simplified it so nicely. Thank you so much. But if there are there, I will send you on your inbox. And our presentation is also available on my page, Dr. Niranjan Chavan, Facebook Live. So Dr. Jaydeep will revert back on that also. Thank you, Jaydeep, for your wonderful presentation. Now, I call upon our First Lady of Foxy. Well, I can say that she is the Secretary General and Associate Editor
200
of
yen.
Foxy and Jogi.
Thank you.
We have the privilege today discussing on SDG goals 2020, 2030. And I would like to say that Madam is very simple, down to earth, and working with her is a pleasure in Foxy. We had also an opportunity to work when she was the Joint Secretary, when Dr. C.N. Purandare sir was the FICO President, the Foxy President, Madam was the Joint Secretary, and the way you have conducted and those organized those two conferences were quite memorable under the guidance of sir, which was in one was in Mumbai and the another one was in Hyderabad. We have found memories of those. She has been also a consultant and a professor at the ESIS Morol Hospital. She was also the associate professor at the Grand Medical College, that is the Sir JJ Group of Hospitals. She has got many papers and awards to her credit. And today she is going to talk on a very relevant topic. And it's very important for all Foxians to understand this. And I'm sure Madam is going to lead Foxy in a better way so that all this SD goals which are being done by FIGO, our President, Dr. Chittaranjan Purandare sir, is carried out further by Madam. And I hand over the mic now to Dr. Madhuri Patel.
Hello, Niranjan, am I audible?
Yes, Madam.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Niranjan, for your kind and generous word. Respected Sir, CN sir, my mentor, and my whatever I am today, it is because of sir. I remember that sir was going for the Foxy President post. He called me up, sir, in the morning one day prior to that, before he was proceeding for election. Then Madhuri, if by grace of God I become president, you will be my joint secretary. I happily accepted, but at the same time, sir told me that are there any major exams for your children? I said, no, sir. So sir is concerned not about us, but also concerned about our families. So I have learned all the nitty-gritty of Foxy, but also about the family value and the personal life. Sir is mentor for so many people. And sir, I really owe to you everything, and Madam Geeta Puradare. He has always believed in making a second line. So there is no vacuum. And therefore, sir has so many students at the so many important positions because he took us with him and made us, Ragini is here, Jaydeep is here, Niranjan, Suvarna, and other people in the organization. He caught on our hand and said, you have to do. And sir, we are lucky enough that we could do it. And, really, I'm really thankful to you, sir, for my life. Then Ragini is my another good friend. I have come across her with sir being president, and I was joint secretary, and we had gone to Gurgaon, and I became very close to her. Now we are also family friends, and I must have visited so many times, and I had again opportunity to work with her when she was vice president of Foxy. Dr. Anita Singh I remember AICOG, it was very cold weather. We could not see a student cold, but still, you have done all the hospitality. And of course, as a past president, vice president, we again came with each other's contact and we did the excellent. And what to tell about Jaydeep? Jaydeep isn't such a silent person, but appropriate for everywhere. He will talk so quietly. Jaydeep, I have still not learned being with you since last 10 years and how to remain and talk quietly. Of course, with the post, I will definitely, learn this, art of remaining quiet at a particular time. And I really tell you that I have learned so many things from Jaydeep. From Sir, I learned all the nitty-gritty of Foxy. Then Dr. Rishikesh Pai and Jaydeep, I have learned many things as an administrative office bearer. And I hope I will do the best. Sir, I promise you and Jaydeep, I will definitely try my best to do the justice to the post. And Niranjan, he is my good friend since last two decades, and I know he's a very, very sincere person. And his sincerity has really helped him. And today he is joint treasurer of Foxy. Plus, he is doing the dual responsibility of professor post. And plus, he is conducting all these webinars. And Niranjan, thank you very much. We'll have good time as an administrative officer. We'll work together. And I wish you best for all your future endeavors. And now I will start with my topic. Can I share my screen? So I must also talk about my delegates who have, logged in today. As Niranjan said, there are 2,000 plus members.
Madam,
So,
we have crossed now 2,800 members.
Wow, wow, wow.
You
Wow.
and Dr. Tam sir. Thank you so much for being here.
Good evening to all of you. Niranjan has given me very difficult task of talking about the sustainable developmental goals. I hope I do justice to the topic. So, the Og Mandino has rightly said, the important thing is that we have to keep on constantly moving forward for the progressive realization of the predetermined goal, and our growth should never end. So let's look at the SDG goals. At the UN Sustainable Development Summit on 25th September 2015, world leaders adopted a 2030 agenda for sustainable development, which includes a set of 17 sustainable development goals to end poverty, fight inequality and injustice, and tackle climate change by 2030. Each goal has specific targets to be achieved over the next 15 years. That is now 10 years more when they said it was 2015. For the goals to be reached, everyone needs to take part, that government, the private sector, civil society, people like us, and of course the common people. A set of 17 goals have 169 detailed targets. It was negotiated over 2 years period at the United Nations, and they came to this conclusion. It was agreed nearly by world, all the nations, that is 193 nations, and achievement of goals to be accessed at every 5 years. That is, we have finished 5 years, so 2020, 2025, and 2030. It addresses the root causes of poverty and the universal need for development that works for all people. The new goals are universal and apply to all countries, whereas the MDGs were intended for action in developing countries only. So this is a difference, that SDG is for all the countries, while the MDG majority was for the developing countries. So a core feature of the SDG has been the means of implementation, the mobilization of financial resources, capacity building, the transfer of environmentally sound technologies. The new goals recognize that tackling climate change is essential for the sustainable development and poverty eradication. Therefore, SDG 13 aims to promote urgent action to combat climate change and its impact. So 13 is about the climatic changes. So therefore, what is the importance of SDGs? Therefore, SDG provides worldwide guidance for addressing the global challenges facing the international community. It is about better protecting the natural foundation of life and our planet everywhere and for everyone, and preserving people's opportunities to live in dignity and prosperity across generations. So by 2030, we want all the people should live with dignity and prosperity. So there are 17 goals. One is no poverty, second is zero hunger, third is good health and well-being, fourth is quality education, fifth gender equality, then seventh is about affordable, and so on. So these are the 17 goals which SDG has. So there are 5 important critical areas that people, planet, peace, prosperity, and partnership. So what it says that if we have to have the action of this SDG goal, we should look after the people where it can end poverty, hunger in all forms and ensure dignity and equality. Planet, we should protect our planet's natural resources and climate for not only future generation, not only present generation, but also the future generation. Then peace, we should foster peaceful, and this is not only about the peaceful surrounding, but also we should be away from the fear and the violence. And of course, we should have a prosperity, not only economically, socially, and also technologically. And therefore, we should have partnership with NGOs, then we have international donors, etc., for the finance to reach the sustainable developmental goal. So these goals, we in our community, we have to concentrate on 5 types of goals, that is end poverty and hungers, ensure health and well-being, gender equality, drinking water, and sanitation. So I will be talking about these 5 goals. So goal 1 is end poverty in all its form everywhere. It has 7 indicators. And when I say 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, that indicates we want such outcomes. And when we say 1.A, 1.B, that means that we have to implement for these outcomes. So goal 1 is for all people everywhere currently measured as people living on less than $1.25 a day. So by 2030, we want to reduce this poverty to the half. Then implement nationally appropriate social protection system and measures for all. Then 1.4 says that by 2030, ensure that all men and women, in particular the poor and vulnerable group, have equal rights to economic resources, as well as access to basic services, ownership and control over land and other forms of property, inheritance, natural resources, etc. Then by 2030, build the resilience of the poor and those in vulnerable situation and reduce their exposure and vulnerability to climate-related extreme events and other economic, social, and environmental shock and disaster. So what are the implementation we can do to achieve this outcome? So ensure significant mobilization of resources from a variety of sources, including thorough enhancement, developmental cooperation. Then to provide adequate and predictable means for developing countries, in particular least developed countries, to implement programs and policy to end poverty. Create sound policy framework at national, regional, and international levels based on pro-poor and gender sensitivity development strategies to support accelerated investment in poverty and eradication action. So what we have achieved by 2020, this is a source from Niti Aayog SDG India Index 2021. So for goal 1, we have achieved something, we have to still achieve something. So there are 270 million people lifted out of multi-dimensional poverty. 28.7% household have at least one member covered under health insurance scheme. 84.44% are beneficiary provided employment under our scheme, and only 4.2% have they stay in a what you call as kacha house. 91.38% are eligible beneficiary receive social protection benefit under the Pradhan Mantri Matru Mandana Yojana. So this is goal 1. Now let's look at goal 2. It tells about the end hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. It has 8 indicators. So by 2030, in particular, the poor and people in vulnerable situation, included infants, to safe nutrition, sufficient food all around the year. By 2030, and all forms of malnutrition, including achieving, which was decided by 2025, the internationally agreed targets on stunting and wasting in children under 5 of the age, and address the nutrition needs of adolescent girls, pregnant, lactating women, and older persons. By 2030, double the agricultural productivity, and there should be equal access to land and other productive resources. Then by 2030, ensure sustainable food production system and implement resilient agriculture practice that increase productivity and production, that help maintain ecosystem, that strengthen the capacity for adaptation to climate change, extreme weather, drought, flooding, and other disasters, and that progressively improve land and soil quality. By 2020, maintain the genetic diversity of seeds, cultivated plants, farm and domesticated animals and their related species. So what can we implement? So increase the investment, including through enhanced international cooperation, rural infrastructure, agriculture research and extension services, technology development, and plant and livestock gene banks. Correct and prevent trade restriction and distortion in world agriculture market. Adopt measures to ensure the proper functioning of food commodity market and their derivatives, and facilitate timely access to market information, including on food reserves, in order to help limit extreme food price volatility. So what we have achieved and what is lacking, that what Niti Aayog has to say 2021, that by 99.51% are beneficially covered under the National Food Security Act 2013 in 2019-20. 28.4% adolescents are still anemic. 50% of mothers, pregnant women are still anemic. 33.4% children aged under 5 are having underweight. 34.7% children aged under have stunted growth. So we have to look after this factor also, even though we have reached to certain level, but we have to work hard on these factors. So now let us look at the goal 3. It ensures the healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages, and it has 13 indicators. So by 2030, reduce the global maternal mortality ratio to less than 70 per 100,000 live births. Our few states like Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Gujarat, they have, and others have already achieved this target, and we have to achieve in other states also by 2030. By 2030, end preventable deaths of newborns and children under 5 years of age, with all countries aiming to reduce national mortality to at least as low as 12 per 1,000 live births, and under 5 mortality to at least as low as 25 per 1,000 live births. By 2030, end the epidemics of AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, and neglected tropical diseases, and combat hepatitis, waterborne disease, and others. By 2030, reduce by one-third premature mortality from non-communicable diseases through prevention and treatment and promote mental health and well-being. So we, by 2030, strengthen the prevention and treatment of substance abuse, including narcotic drug abuse and harmful use of alcohol. By 2020, halt the number of global deaths, injuries from road traffic accident. By 2030, ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive health care services. So then another outcome we expect is achieve universal health coverage, including financial risk protection, access to quality essential healthcare services, and access to safe, effective, quality, and affordable essential medicine and vaccine for all. By 2030, substantially reduce the number of death and illness from hazardous chemicals and air, water, and soil pollution and contamination. So these are we expect the outcomes. So how we have to implement the strategies. So what to do? Strengthen implementation of the framework convention on tobacco control in all countries as appropriate. Support research and development of vaccine and medicine for the communicable and non-communicable diseases that primarily affect developing countries. Provide access to affordable essential medicine and vaccines in accordance with the Doha Declaration, which affirms the right of developing countries to use the full provision in the TRIPS agreement regarding flexibility to protect public health, in particular provide access to medicine for all. So this Doha Declaration has given us the chance to provide the medicine at a particular rate. So now increase substantially health financing and the recruitment, development, training, and retention of the health workers in developing countries. Strengthen the capacity of all countries, particularly developing countries, for early warning, risk reduction, and management of national and global health risk. So what we have achieved by 2021 and what is lacking? That there is the maternal mortality we could reduce by 130 per 100,000 live birth. 36 children aged under 5 years die for every 1,000 live birth, which is also low. 37 physicians, nurses, and midwives per 100,000 population are there, which we have to increase. There are 172 tuberculosis cases for notified per 100,000 population. Then HIV incidence per 1,000 uninfected population has reduced from 0.07 to 0.05%. And there are 13% monthly per capita household consumption expenditure on health. There are 4.4% deliveries has occurred in the institution, which is a great achievement. And 91% children aged 9 to 11 months have been immunized. So this is also the great achievement. So goal 5, there are 9 indicators. It tells about the achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. So what are the outcomes we expect? End all forms of discrimination against all women and girls everywhere. Eliminate all forms of violence against all women and girls in public and private spheres, including trafficking and sexual and other type of exploitation. Eliminate all harmful practices such as child, early and forced marriages and female genital mutilation. Ensure women's full and effective participation and equal opportunities for leadership at all levels of decision making in political, economical, and public life. Ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive health and reproductive life. So here I would like to mention that in a FOXY, we have so many projects has been done about the sexual and reproductive rights. And here at present, family planning doing a great work. And I must say that Dr. Jaydeep and we have launched along with the UNAIDs, the PUNK program, where it is really looking after the adolescent and youth about the contraceptive advice. And there is a digital platform where they can go, what is called as Bedhadak, Talk Bedhadak. And if they require any assistance from us, then we have youth and adolescent clinic where they can take a proper advice. So these are the few things I wanted to talk about the Foxy, and Foxy is doing very well as far as sexual and reproductive health and reproductive rights are concerned. Our president main theme is DIRA, that is by Stop Violence Against Women. So that is another one thing that is coming in the SRH group. Then undertake reform to give women equal rights to economic resources, as well as access to ownership and control over land and other forms of property, financial services, inheritance, and natural resources in accordance with national laws. Enhance the use of enabling technology, adopt and strengthen sound policy and enforceable legislation for the promotion of gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls at all levels. So what we have achieved and lacking, that is 8.46% seats in the state legislative assembly are held by women, 0.33% ratio of female to male labor force participation rate as against 1. 899 sex ratio at birth, female per 1,000 males is low. 72% of married women have their demand for family planning made by modern methods. 62 cases of crime against women are registered for every 100,000 female population. 20 women experience cruelty, physical violence by spouse or his relative for every 100,000 female population. Then there are 190 among every 1,000 persons. 13.96 operational landholder are females. 33% men have higher salary than females. So you can imagine 77% women have a higher salaries than men. So now look at the goal 6. It ensures availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. It has 8 indicators. By 2030, achieve universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water for all. By 2030, achieve access to adequate and equitable sanitation and hygiene for all and end open defecation. By 2030, improve water quality by reducing pollution, eliminating dumping and minimizing release of hazardous chemicals and materials, and halving the proportion of untreated wastewater and substantially increasing recycling and safe for reuse globally. By 2030, substantially increase water use efficient across the sectors and ensure sustainable withdrawal and supply of fresh water to address water scarcity and substantially reduce the number of people suffering from water scarcity. By 2030, implement integrated water resources management at all levels. By 2020, protect and restore water-related ecosystem, including mountains, forests, wetlands, rivers, and aquifers and lakes. Expand. So what are the implementation we can do? Expand the international cooperation and capacity building support to developing countries in water and sanitation related activities and programs, including water harvesting, desalination, water efficiency, wastewater treatment, recycling, and reuse technology. Support and strengthen the participation of local community for improving water sanitation and management. So what we have achieved and what is lacking by 2020-2021 Niti Aayog SDG India is said that 100% of the district verified as open defecation free, 100% of individual household latrine constructed against target SBMG, 95% school have separate toilet facilities for girls, 51.36% have rural population receive safe and adequate drinking water through pipe water supply. 97.44% rural population have access to improved source of drinking water, and 88.4% polluting industry comply with Central Pollution Control Board of norms for wastewater treatment. So almost 88.4% are complying industries. That is a great achievement. So there are role of Niti Aayog in monitoring. Niti Aayog has a twin mandate to oversee the adoption and monitoring of SDGs in the country and also promote competitive and cooperative federalism among states and union territories. SDG India Index and Dashboard was launched in 2018, and now it is third edition. Editorial edition was released in 2021. The SDG India Index 2021 developed in collaboration with the United Nations on India, and there are 150 indicators for these SDG goals. So, who are the now? Let us see who are at the highest level as far as these goals are concerned. Which are the states? So, as far as goal 1 is concerned, no poverty, Tamil Nadu and Delhi are at the highest. Zero hunger, Kerala and Chandigarh. Then good health and well-being, Gujarat and Delhi. Goal 4, quality education, Kerala and Chandigarh. Goal 5, gender equality, Chhattisgarh, Andaman and Nicobar are at the highest. Goal 6, clean water and sanitation, Goa and Lakshadweep. Then goal 7, affordable and clean energy, many states have achieved their status. Goal 8, decent work and economy, that is Himachal Pradesh and Chandigarh are ahead. Then industry innovation, Gujarat and Delhi are ahead. Then 11, goal 11, sustainable cities and communities, Punjab and Chandigarh are ahead. Then responsible consumption, Tripura and Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh are ahead. Goal 13, climate action, Odisha, Andaman, Nicobar and Islands are ahead. Goal 14, life below water, Odisha has done well. Goal 15, life and land, Arunachal Pradesh and Chandigarh are doing well. Goal 16, peace, justice and strong industries, Uttarakhand and Pondicherry are doing well. So these are the front runners, our states, almost 22, and we are now expecting from other states of India. So challenges for India in attaining the SDGs. So there is defining indicators. Past record indicates that we have been not very successful in setting relevant indicator to measure outcomes. Quality education has not successfully been defined. India myopic definition of safe drinking water with hand pumps and tube wells considered as a safe as pipe water supply means that official data suggests that 86% of the Indians have access to safe drinking water. And as a result, we are on track for the MGD goal on drinking water. However, the number of waterborne disease and death due to diarrhea clearly indicates this is not the case. The other challenge is financial aspect. It is estimated that implementing SDG in India by 2030 will cost around $14.4 billion. Given the recent cut in social sector schemes by union government, unless states devote a significant portion of their resources on the social sector, there is likely to be significant funding gap. High growth and redistribution itself are also not enough. According to the United Nations MDG 2014 report, despite of high economic growth in 2010, 1/3 of the world's 1.2 billion extreme poor live in India alone. Given this constraint, it is likely that domestic revenue aside, private finance would be a crucial source for financing the SDGs. The other challenge is measuring the progress. Most importantly is the question of measuring progress or achievement. By the government's own admission, non-availability of data, particularly in respect of the sub-national level, periodicity issues, and incomplete coverage of administrative data made accurate measuring progress, even MDGs, virtually impossible. So collection of data is very, very, less, we cannot cope up with that, and we have to find out some solution in collecting the data. The another challenge is monitoring and ownership. NITI Aayog will play a significant role in tracking progress. However, members at the Aayog have expressed reservation on being able to take on this mammoth task. Moreover, if states are expected to play a pivotal role, it will require ownership at not just nationally, but also at the state and local level. So, at the end, I will say that apart from these four challenges, it is important to remember that while SDGs provide broad goals and targets, it will be up to the national and the state government to identify priorities, decide appropriately locally relevant policies, harness innovation, and ensure that an implementation and monitoring is in place. Only then we will have any chance in ensuring that the S in SDGs also stand for successful. So I would like to end my talk by Harry S. Fass's quote, the growth and development of people is the highest calling of leadership. I thank you, all of you, for the patient hearing, and I feel I must have done some justice to the talk. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, madam, for that wonderful goals of SDG you have explained us today. I think all the delegates' eyes have opened that India has to do a lot, especially from obstetrics and gynecology point of view. Madam, you have rightly said about maternal mortality. I would like to reiterate here that Dr. Madhuri Patel, madam, is on the maternal mortality committee of our Mumbai district, and she has been there for last, I think, 6 years, madam.
Yes.
And because of our inputs which have been there and all the 5 medical colleges, 22 maternity hospitals which are there in the Mumbai district and its Mumbai suburbs, and also the small nursing homes have benefited a lot because our maternal morbidity and mortality has gone down tremendously. I remember 2.5 to 3 decades ago, we used to have a lot of issues about maternal morbidity, as most of these patients were, very critical by the time they are seen by an obstetrician. So I'm sure absolutely you have done wonders, madam, in that committee. And I would like to ask you a question regarding, madam, what would you give the message to the Foxians to see that we as Foxians can achieve a much better goal and to improve this statistics in the near future?
Thank you, Niranjan, for the very good question. Before that, I answer the question, I would like to mention Jaydeep. Before me, Jaydeep also was attending this MDSR meeting. It lasts from morning till night. The whole idea is that we don't point out, the fault. We try to tell our, whoever have come where they had maternal mortality, doctors have come. We try to tell that when next time such case comes, we have to improve the treatment part, and it is not a blame game. Okay, it is just for the improvement for the future patient if they come up with such condition. So for improving this, what patient Niranjan has asked, I would like to say that whatever facilities you have, whatever in your nursing home or the hospital or the corporate hospital or general hospital, we have to deal with that. Of course, we can always enhance the technology, everything in our hospital, but at that particular moment, you have to deal everything what you can give best to your patient. And secondly, in a MDSR meeting where I'm attending since last 6 years, I have observed that many of the time, certain things are taken very lightly, like postpartum hemorrhage. Mumbai city, still the patients are dying, mothers are dying. 12% of mothers are dying due to postpartum hemorrhage. So that is, the maternal mortality has reduced, but out of this maternal mortality, still the 12% of patients are dying, mothers are dying in a city like Mumbai where all the facilities are available. So here I would like to mention that, when the patient is bleeding profusely, you are there to look after her, right? You will immediately. But when patient has tickle, blood loss, then we come to know only that she is in shock. That time we know that patient is, in shock. and now not much can be done. So these are the small things I will tell all my doctor friends who are here, that you have to really take, something is abnormal, patient is saying that something is going wrong, you just don't ignore it. You have to look after that, and then only will can achieve, means you can prevent, because 70% of the maternal deaths are preventable. So you have to act on each and every symptom, each and every sign of the patient, and do the justice with whatever availability is there with your nursing home or a hospital. And whenever, another thing is that whenever you are in need, as Sayed sir has always told me, whenever you are in need, make good friends with your colleagues around your areas where you are practicing. So any moment when you have a problem, you can call them, and they can really help you, instead of spreading the rumors that this happened and that happened. So they really help you. And from the medical legal point of view, also we are safe, because we have taken a second competent doctor or a second gynecologist opinion, and we did everything. So these are the few things I would like our doctor friends who are joined to adopt these few things.
Thank you, madam. I would request Dr. Purandare sir to please comment on this SDG goals. Sir, kindly unmute.
I'm doing that. Just hold on. Yeah. I think Madhuri has really elaborated well on the situation, but one must understand that these are issues where the country and the states must take ownership of this. This is not an individual job. It's not you or me or Niranjan who can solve the issue of whole of India, 1.2 billion population. But it's a governments need to take complete ownership of these things. Then only one can succeed. We will all chip in from our point, whatever is needed. But this is something which is a national problem, and national unity, national cooperation, and national support has to be there to bring about this change. As regards the maternal mortality, I think we have achieved quite a bit. And when we look at the overall maternal mortality, which was there in 1995 till today, and I mean, there is a drastic change from 520 to 130, which is a massive achievement. And let me say that the reduction in maternal mortality policy-wise, government must have done a lot, but it's the obstetrician on the ground who has really worked hard to bring that maternal mortality down. And due credit must be given to those doctors and paramedics who have put in that effort to bring that maternal mortality. And I am positive that today in Maharashtra it has gone well below 100. Many other states have it less than 100, and the overall maternal mortality, which we are expecting to go nearing around 40 by 2030, will probably go below 40 much earlier than 2030 because of the effort that is being put in. And we are not a small force. We have more than 37,000 obstetricians in the federation, and we are all working towards it. And hoping that women of India will get the best possible treatment that needs to be given for the maternity. And the newborn health as well, the perinatal mortality. We're talking about stillbirth, which are happening fresh stillbirth to macerated stillbirth. The maternal fetal health has been now combined together to make sure that we put that effort, not only just saving mothers but saving those babies as well. Means antenatally doing sections early, monitoring them with sonography and whatever, which has made a lot of difference with the end result. FIGO has come out with recommendations on the well-being, how to look after the mothers and the babies, and the various parameters that are to be. And Foxy has recommendations as well, which are there in place, which the obstetricians must follow. And I mentioned it in the ICOG webinar, and there Madhuri was present as well. That don't produce 60, 70-page document. Nobody has time to read it. Produce a one-page or a two-page concise document point form that they can keep it on their table where they're working, so they can refer to it. If you want to talk about controlling postpartum hemorrhage, I don't need 60 page in the labor ward to go through. There should be one flow chart to say, if not this, do this, if not this, do that, and you will succeed in surviving the patient. And I remember um, people who have even uh, worked for a small duration in medical colleges and gone into the periphery have benefited by watching people do surgeries and doing it. And I remember one of the medical officers way back in Nandurbar, out in a remote area, calling me at the middle of the night that he had a patient with postpartum hemorrhage and needed internal iliac ligation. And how do we? He said, I have seen you do it. How do I do it? And believe me, the man was successful in doing that by on mobile, me telling him what to do during surgery, pick up the peritoneum, identify this, go in. And he managed to ligate both the internal iliac and patient survived. So this is something which we can have videos, which can just somebody can just put it on in the theater and see step by step what is being done and follow it to achieve what is happening. So um, I think we need to, with the webinars, Niranjan, we need to get into the mode of producing videos which can be made available to all the obstetricians in the rural areas to benefit out of this. So all the very best to you and a great job of organizing this webinar. Congratulations to you.
Sir, thank you so much. You being the chief guest, you are there till the end. I am amazed. We all are very, very grateful to you, Dr. Madhuri and Dr. Jaydeep. It's our pleasure that Anita Singh and Ragini, all of you have been there together. The all credit goes to AGOG, and she'll connect to all of us, and of course the delegates who have made. Dr. Madhuri, I think a very important point, sir has said that we need to work on posting videos from Foxy, and you were also at the helm of affairs of the website, and Jaydeep would also agree. It will be a very important thing of posting those videos, especially those for interventions which we do. That is systematic devascularization and internal iliac ligation, and simple postpartum hemorrhage we can manage by giving a massage and all those drugs. Madam, you would like to conclude the session, and then I would
One more comment, Niranjan.
Yes,
A
sir.
simple thing like balloon for controlling hemorrhage is something which we can propagate clearly and make sure that it is made available to do it. And infographics are the key really to making sure that small little pamphlets which will show pictures and will tell exactly what to do, going to all the obstetricians practicing in the country.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. Madam,
Yeah.
we'd like you to conclude the session with your insight, and then I would hand over the mic to Dr. Prachi to give the vote of thanks.
Neeraj, this is for whom, me or Anita or Zagini?
Madam, that is for you.
Yeah, okay. So I because there are so many madams, so I got confused. Thank you very much. And so I would like to conclude that ovulation induction, all the gynecologists should do. But Jaydeep has said so nicely about it. And it is very clear in everybody's mind that when to give letrozole, when to give clomiphene, when to give gonadotropin, how much to give in PCOS in a normal patient, and how to achieve the maximum benefit by patient conceiving. Then as far as SIRS inputs are concerned, as far as the sustainable developmental goals. It was very good, and sir has said very practical point that we should put all the videos so our other people who have no facilities to call the other gynecologists or obstetrician and to help them and guide them. So I will definitely upload. We have uploaded many videos, but the link stays for only few months or years and it just disappears. So now, with Suvarna is now Deputy Secretary General, she is on website in charge. Along with that, Niranjan, we all will upload the videos, Amana. So our Foxy, not only our Foxy members, but also the other gynecologists who are not members, they can access easily our website because our website is not restricted to only members. Anybody can access. So that I will definitely keep in mind, and let us work all together to reduce the maternal mortality, especially by 72,000 to 70 per 100,000 women by 2030. And as sir rightly said, we have done very good work. I should also ground level obstetrician. I should also thank them and congratulate for doing the great work. And because of them, we could reduce the maternal mortality. And the government once comes in with the full fledged, we will definitely reduce the maternal mortality.
Thank you so much, Madam Patel. Now I request Dr. Prachi to please give vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I'm there. Thank you, sir. So thank you, Dr. Purandare, sir. It was really an honor and privilege to have you on this platform and to listen to you. So thank you, really thank you very much. Our guest of honors, Dr. Ragini ma'am and Dr. Anita Singh ma'am, thank you for giving us your time and spending time with us. Thanks, sir.
Prachi,
Yes, sir.
can
Yes.
we have a face put into your talk so that we know who is this Prachi?
Sir, actually, there is a lag in the network. So that's why if I start speaking and sharing video, then there is a connection problem. It's raining very heavily in Mumbai, sir. That's the reason I did not share my video. But I'll keep this in mind. Sorry, sir. Thank you, Dr. Chansar, for making this ovulation induction easy to understand and some sharing very important tips with us. Dr. Madhuri Patel ma'am sharing those sustainable developmental goals and making us aware of these goals. And last but not the least, Dr. Niranjan Chavan sir, thank you very much for your continuous support and guidance. And without your support, sir, this task series wouldn't have been possible. So thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you our participant doctors too.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye. Bye. Thanks, Niranjan. Thanks, Dr. Madhuri. Bye.
Bye.